Smart 24, driving business.
Business Andrew Barigi here with Masi Katsumi. Now, this particular time, it's where we believe it's the time when you need to get inspired as a young entrepreneur and as somebody that is trying to pursue a career in all kinds of ways. Let's get into this real quick. We shall be right back. A lot of time we battle with the past, probably the insecurities of something we went through, and some of them actually become the reality of ourselves, which limits our present living, in terms of the decisions that we can make. And now this comes in line with entrepreneurship. You probably tried out to invest in businesses way back in time, and something didn't go right. And I understand somebody can even tell you, most especially when you've had 3 times succession of businesses that are failing, and there is this narrative that is built around you that maybe this is not in your family genes, this is not in your family blood. Well, I mean, lots of, in Africa, we have lots of beliefs that we associate a lot, most especially when it comes to financial failure, and we attach it to, ancestral related perspectives. But, well, I can tell you one thing is, lessons did you learn? These just come as a way to teach us something better and to groom you as an entrepreneurship. Because, and by the way, many of us love greatness, Masi. But you see, there is a price to greatness in terms of you being tested by what you're trying to pursue. Because no great man that we see had a straightforward path. And even we talk about hustles, they really had to see it all. Because this is to make you appreciate where you are. Because we've seen people that get to the top and they don't appreciate the process. Why? Because they didn't encounter challenges. Probably they just crossed over and maybe they inherited something and they can't impact a generation. That's why we're talking about reasons as why sometimes some generations can't proceed on a business knowledge to other generations. If you take a look at this person, how did he get to this degree of wealth? What was the path? So that's why it brings us to the perspective of that. Let the old not consume you. focus on building the new you, use that energy to focus on how you can actually make things much more better, I believe you can be able to make some good entrepreneurial decisions. And by the way, when you're in that state of, do they call it denial? I don't know what to use. Okay, like you're trying to, insecurities, your insecurities are popping up from the past. You can't think straight. Even in the present, you will think, even when somebody brings an idea for you to try out, the old will be stuck into your mind. But you have to free your mind and live like the old didn't exist. Let it be, live like the old existed after you've made it. Because let me tell you, if you are having it all the way, nobody really cares about what kind of a life you went through. So at least let that be the driver for you to focus on the new investment ventures and move forward. Then he mentioned something to do with the website. Many businesses today, because you get to realize it's okay to have your presence on Facebook, on Twitter, I mean, those traditional platforms. But you see, there is an aspect which I got to understand, most especially when it comes to revenues, because with your website, if you post content as a business, you can attract sponsors. It's very possible. Revenues can come in. And in a business now, the trend now is developing an application. You develop a website, and with time, within no time, the presence on social media will also have its end. It's going to have its end at some point in time, because there is no way you can battle with Facebook when it comes to revenue ads. You can't battle with YouTube. You can't battle with Google. We have the New York Times. These are the giants of digital earnings. Talking about revenues, why? Because they have their own platforms, and they have made these platforms known to the people. That's why I love China. China decided to have their own everything, from social media, from search engines, and all that. Why? To have that revenue, knowing that this is entirely us. We can't advertise our product on this platform. Because there is no fair distribution of incomes at the end of the day. So use your website as a business to be informative in a way. This could attract some, clients that can come. That is, if you have content that is tailored to what they go through and also in line with what your business is actually providing. At the end of the day, it's about whose life can you make better.
Well, of course, I was reading something by Muhammad Ali, the world-renowned boxer, is known for kickboxing, know. And of course, he one time said, "I am a fighter. I believe in the eye for an eye business." Yeah, I am no chick turner. I have respect for a man who won't hit back. You kill my dog, you better hide your cat. So that is what you should be, driving us in life. Don't be like, oh, don't be for they hit your chick, then you put another one. Fight back. These days is for survival. Yeah, they hit you, you hit them back. That is how competition works. Yeah. You have to be ready to fight in these times, eh? You be able to fight. If they have not paid you, protest back. I saw these cases here. Women protesting and, putting the whole cases here, and of course Parliament on commotion. So please fight for what you know is right for you. Yeah, that is how you're going to win in this this new Uganda, this new era of Uganda. It's about fighting. You have to have put on the garment, put on your garment. I don't know if we have a secular garment. There's a Bible garment, the garment of fighting. So put it on, be ready to fight. Okay? Do not put your cheek first, and the next time they hit you first. When they try to hit you, hit them back. Hit them back. That is how you're going to survive. That's all. If at all February wasn't okay for you, tell you what, fight.
Fight back.
March. Fight. When someone tries to oppose you, speak up. I mean, you know your rights. Come on, people, speak up. know who you are. The moment you know who you are, this is where you fight back. The moment you walk into the room, they can feel you.
All right. Amazing aspects in there. And you need to, it's about persistence, in other words. And there is also the aspect of being consistent in being in persistence. You know, that is also key. All right. Now, that is it for the inspirational moment. Exactly 14 minutes past 8. Well, now looking into our topic still of discussion today, looking into the budget's priorities. But the big issue here is the debt management issue, where we are currently standing at about 97 trillion. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. And previously, before the latest figure, before the latest figure came in, before the Auditor General's report, we are starting at about 80 trillion, and now we're heading to that. And now the biggest question mark that brings in here, what I'm thinking is that in this budget, how have they provided, how have they put provisions when it comes to providing services to the people? First of all, there is government providing services to the people vis-a-vis a situation where even the people can't get loans from commercial banks because the interest rate is high. Government borrowed most of the money. And a bank, why would a bank lend to you, a private person, and it leaves the government? You are risky, you know, and all that. So I feel like all these perspectives really need to be looked into because government grappling with servicing the debt. Now, if it can't help you out, even you as a private person, when you try to help out, you are limited in terms of investment.
Actually, that is what they are planning to do, to make sure that they control the borrowing and reducing the debt servicing costs, which has contributed tremendously, the biggest percentage when it comes to the budget allocation. I mean, the debt, way of paying out debt is the one that carries a bigger percentage. So, well, you talked about us, we can't avoid borrowing as a country.
Yeah,
the same applies to how we cannot avoid borrowing as individuals.
As individuals,
yes. Because how else do you expect yourself to invest if you do not borrow?
Yeah.
In Uganda, you have to
actually
borrow,
everywhere.
to invest everywhere. Actually, everywhere.
It's not just in Uganda.
It's just that maybe it's just with the interest rates, it just helps people with impulse borrowing, who borrow
for unnecessary
things. So when the interest rates are high, you'd be like, you know what, let me borrow for a cause that I know is going to benefit me, and I'm able to pay out my debt and get profits at the end of the day. Because you cannot borrow because you're going to buy a car, unless you're going to use a car for Uber or transportation. You cannot.
Absolutely. And some of these disciplines actually are key, but the challenge comes in that most of, if we're to talk about high prices, you know, now like recently the Uber's report clearly showed that the prices of goods have increased, considering most especially substitutes, I mean complements, you know, talking about food prices as compared to January. There's been a little bit increase. Most of our demand, you see, people, even when the demand is high, that's why our inflation has less to do with the forces of demand and supply. It's more of driven by oil prices, you know, and sometimes we are talking about aspects of imported inflation, you know. So that puts it out there. But also, when we come to the aspect of our balance of payment issues, where we are seeing now, we were discussing earlier on in the morning call about the shilling devaluating, whereby it has reached, now it has, it's increasing. We are worried that it might even reach 4,000 against the dollar. You know, $1 being now equivalent to about 4,000. It's very possible, yeah. But then I feel this way: when we have this shilling weakening, that means imports are going to become more expensive, you know, and they're going to become more expensive. And now this is going to discourage that if I needed, for example, $100,000 to import 50, I mean, certain tons of something, that means, it may not be my access, but now I may be forced now to instead import goods worth $70,000 or $50,000. So that is discouraging imports in some sort of way. And remember, we are also embarking on import substitution strategies. And also the other advantage, away from discouraging the imports, our exports become cheap.
Exactly.
They become competitive on the world market. So at some point, these forces of demand and supply have to come in a way and influence this to get back to the stabilization. Because if now our imports are expensive, I mean, if what we import is quite expensive, don't you think for somebody is going to be forced to borrow?
Yeah.
We're going to be forced to borrow money and then import. But then if it reaches a point whereby the shilling is depreciating at a very faster rate, it might reach a point and you can't no longer borrow money. So sometimes the depreciation of the shilling in a way can be an intervention in terms of controlling the debt burden. Because if imports are probably expensive and the shilling hasn't depreciated a big deal, each percentage, somebody may be able to handle this. They're like, okay, I can still borrow. But now the further the depreciation, it would be now a risky time for you that is thinking that you're going to borrow to import.
Remember last year, Kenya was facing the same situation.
Actually, even earlier this year, the depreciation in Kenyan currency against the US dollar.
Yeah, the US dollar.
Yeah.
But there is a way they actually thrived amidst all that. And remember, you know, their exports to African countries actually did increase tremendously last year.
Yeah, they used that opportunity.
Yes.
A depreciating shilling, exports became cheaper, so they become competitive on the regional and continental market.
Yes.
That is it.
That's the strategy they actually used. And of course, there were a lot of, they imposed taxes on people, you know, even on social media as well. But all that, if a person takes time to understand the dynamics of Uganda's economy, that means at the end of the day, you know, you have to pay Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Yeah, so that you can have the good roads that you're hoping for, you can have the good hospitals the good services that you want as a citizen. So if the more we have tax defaulters or loan defaulters, the more it's going to cripple our economy, the more we're going to borrow.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now I was talking about the dead projects that we've been having in Uganda. I feel like if at all we realize, if we've given a time frame of maybe 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
And the 5 years have come, are almost elapsing. Yes, we should go back to the drawing board. If at all we started with the foundation, and for the last 3 years we've been on the foundation of maybe a certain building or estate or whatever it is. Yeah. If at all we allocated trillions of money, yeah, how about, you know what, as we wait for the contractors, the people we contracted to think through,
exactly,
let's use this money to do other projects. Yeah.
Yes.
So you find that the money that we're supposed to use in other projects, we are even increasing on what is collapsing. Like, what is that? And it also encourages corruption.
Corruption.
Yeah.
Wow, very beautiful. And definitely to join up this discussion later on into the show, we shall be having, that is Christine Bigiro, is the program's officer at the Uganda Debt Network, as we break down these matters, how, what is the debt management framework for the country, Uganda, and any way the Uganda Debt Network would advise the government when it comes to handling the debt, the debt. And also Professor Sachs, mentioning something to do with long-term borrowing. What does Uganda Debt Network really think about such an initiative? Is it viable? Is it key? Well, more of those discussions are going to be coming up later on at 9 a.m. in our Business Insight, as we take a look at the dates, of course, in line with the budget. You know, the public debt in line with the budget. I remember the state plans to at least borrow 13 trillion to cover the budget deficit, you know, the deficit, the debt gap, you know, some of these states. And I remember with the merger of the government agencies, where we anticipated that because these are part of the key contributors to the heavy expenditure and we borrow and we find ourselves that we have to borrow to actually run the day-to-day activities of these organizations. And once this merger actually happens, the country is in position to save 1 trillion every year annually. So how is that going to benefit the country's economic growth and development? Well, for now, let's take a break, and business in sports and entertainment returning shortly.